Welcome everybody. Welcome to White City Place Connect, where we're offering occupiers of White City Place a live platform from which to learn and engage from the comfort and safety of your own home. My name's Dora. You're very welcome to our Wednesday lunchtime yoga session. We're going to begin on our mats and just sitting for a few moments of pranayama. So that might be on your shins if you're comfortable here. You might be sitting in a cross-legged position. If you need to sit up on something so the spine can be relatively tall and supported, then go ahead and use a block or a cushion or whatever you may have. And let's place the palms face down on our thighs. Lightly close the eyes if that's comfortable for you, or just take a soft gaze onto the floor in front of you. Feel where the spine is, so you might rock the spine forwards and backwards a little bit until you find that sweet spot where you can feel your connection to the earth below, the space above, and the spine feels as though it's suspended. Tuck the hinge of your jaw slightly backwards and upwards towards the inner ear. So there's a little lowering of the chin here, it's very subtle. Face softens down. And allow the shoulder blades to slide down the back. Maybe the hands even shrink up the thighs a little bit so the elbows can soften towards the hips. Bring your awareness to the natural breath. Just becoming conscious of what may have been unconscious for you for most of your morning. Just noticing the breath as it is. But maybe noticing also that when we bring our attention to the breath, it may be changed in some way by observing. We're going to begin this session with a few rounds of square breath. Breathing in for 4, retaining for 4, breathing out for 4 and pausing for 4. If you don't feel comfortable with the retention, then you can skip that. There's just a little move between the breaths, just a little pause, a little suspension. Now we're not trying to particularly increase the volume of the breath here, just gently stretching, lengthening and equalizing both parts of the breath and acknowledging the pauses in between the breaths, which we're going to exaggerate a little bit. So all you need to do is follow my lead and try to keep the outer layers of your body as relaxed as possible. So we're breathing from the inside out. And we'll start just by breathing together, breathing in through the nose. It's all in and out through the nose. And breathing out. And we'll begin breathing in, 2, 3, 4. Retain, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Retain, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Retain, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Breathe in. Retain. Breathe out. Pause. Breathe in like the movement of spring. Retain at the height of summer. Exhale the movement of autumn and pause in the depths of winter as you let this go. And wait for the body's natural impulse to receive the inhale. Allow it to flow in and then allow the breath to settle into its own natural rhythm. Eyes closed for a few more moments and just noticing how you feel. If just these 5 rounds of pranayama have changed your breath in any way, perhaps it feels a little freer, more spacious, or maybe there's no change at all. Both are equally fine. Let's gently open the eyes and ease our way out of this seat. Come onto the hands and the knees. Bring the knees a little bit wider. And you're going to cross one foot in the other. So the top arch of one foot in the bottom arch of the other. So we're not crossing the shins or the ankles. Crossing, snuggling in the feet. And then come and sit down towards the heels here. And maybe take a little rock here across the heels. So a little bit of pressure from the bones of the top foot into the arch of the bottom foot. Just gently waking up the feet. And you have that long ligament of the plantar fascia here, which may feel a little tender. Doesn't want to be painful. You could reduce the amount of weight onto your heels if you need. And then I'm going to come up and just change. Top bones in the soft part of your bottom foot. Take a little sway. You might be surprised at how tender the foot feels. Or maybe there's not much sensation at all. And then coming back up with the hips, so you can bring the tips of the toes to touch and come to sit down onto the heels. And then we're going to start to walk our body over towards the right. So the torso walks over onto the top of the right thigh. The arms are an extension of the side body. Keep pouring the weight into the left sit bone and stretch your arms forward here. Head can be just floating off the floor or forehead to the earth. And 2 long lines to the sides of the body from the hips through to the tips of your little fingers. Feel where the breath moves. It moves into the spaces in each pose that you create here. Leaving the right hand where it is, could you place the left palm directly on top? Roll the left shoulder blade towards the earth and let your gaze turn towards the right shoulder as the rib cage spirals. Taking the hands off, walk yourself back through to the center and over to the other side. So bringing the left side of your waist and rib cage over the left thigh. Arms extending from the side body. Keep pouring the weight down into the right sit bone. Keep the left hand where it is. Maybe the right hand comes on top as you curl the right shoulder blade towards the floor. Right side of the rib cage rolls down and the gaze may turn towards that left shoulder. Breathing into the right side of your body, inflating and deflating the right lung in particular. And then taking the right palm off, walk yourself back through to the center. Lift your hips off your heels for a moment so you can parallel the shins, so knees a little closer, toes behind the knees, and come to sit down in a modified child's pose with the shins parallel. Turn your face to one side, it may or may not come onto the floor, and take the hands onto your sacrum, palms facing up, one palm resting in the other. As you press down through the shins, sweep the arms out and up as you breathe. Big full breath. As you exhale, hinge forward, turn the face to the other side, take the opposite hand on top. Take an inhale, press down through the shins, breathing from the pit of the belly up to the shoulders, and exhale, hinging as you come back down. One more time, inhaling, Exhaling. Inhaling, turn the palms to face one another. We're coming to Utkatasana on the knees, so reach your sit bones back, come about halfway down. Keep the thumbs lifting towards the space behind you. Press the shins down into the mat and feel as if you're trying to pull them away from one another. We'll really activate the quads. Have a natural curve in your lower back. Keep the breath flowing and then take the hands to the floor. You might want to walk them forward a little bit as you bring the hips over the knees so the wrists arrive underneath the shoulders. We're going to float the left arm out to the side as you inhale, maybe look up, and as you exhale, sweep the arm through. It's just hovering there. Press down to come up as you inhale. Just threading the needle, arm hovers, just floats above the earth. One more time, inhaling. Exhaling, perhaps this time the back of the hand, maybe the forearm, maybe even the shoulder come to the floor, side of the face. If you need to keep supporting your neck, use your right hand to support you here, back of the left arm. If you feel you can go a little further, stretch your right fingertips forward and maybe even creep the fingertips over towards the space behind your skull. If you come into this pose and it doesn't feel comfortable, there's too much pressure on the head, or it feels fragile for the neck, slide the right hand back to support you. Let's slide this right hand back now by the face. Push into the hand and come up onto your hands and knees once again. Take an inhale, float your right arm up, and as you exhale, feed it through. 2 more times. Press into the left palm to come up, inhale. Exhale, feed it through. 1 more time. Inhaling. Exhale. Maybe back of the hand, forearm, elbow, maybe even the shoulder side of the face. And there's a downward action to support the neck through the hand and the back of that right arm. Stay here or stretch the left fingertips forward, making a little cup with your hand. Wiggle the fingers towards the space behind your skull. Have a sense of where your hips are in space behind you. And sliding the left hand back to the floor so you can see it there and using that hand to come back up. Right. So placing your right forearm across the mat, so it's parallel to the top edge of the mat. Left arm stretches forward, puppy dog pose as you lift your hips. Forehead rests on the forearm or onto the floor in front of the forearm, your choice. Spread the shoulder blades, melt between the shoulder blades. If it's too strong on the shoulder joint, you could soften the left elbow to the floor. Keep the feet anchored. If they start to free float, just press down to the tops of your ankles and your feet. And then gather the lower ribs to lift yourself up here, sliding the hands back. And go the other way, left forearm is parallel to the top edge of the mat. Right arm stretches forward, forehead on the forearm or onto the floor. Couple of breaths here as you melt between the shoulders, spread the shoulder blades. And gathering the lower ribs as you slide your hands back towards you. Tuck your toes here, put the shoulder blades down the back. Start to lift the knees off the floor and float into a downward facing dog. You can bend one knee and the other here as you ease into the backs of the legs, or choose just to be still. Moving the fluid through the knees, ankles, articulating through the bones of your feet. sinking the heels. And walking your hands back towards your feet, so you're standing in the back of your mat. Let yourself hang over your legs. Palms could flip upwards, so the backs of the hands on the floor in front of your toes. Or maybe just the fingertips resting lightly. Soften the knees so you can really let the head go. And just gently turn the head from side to side here. Notice if the toes are gripping, the weight may be a little bit too far forward. If they're lifting, maybe a little bit too far back. Leading with the heart. Come up slowly. Keep the chin slightly down. Floating the arms out to the sides, using your legs to come up. And as you exhale, walk yourself forward towards the front of the mat. Bring the feet together, big toe joints to touch, heels are slightly apart. Roll the shoulders back, press the palms together. Take an inhale as you exhale. Little Utkatasana, squeezing the knees. Bring the right elbow to the outside of your left thigh. Lift and lengthen through the inner seam of your spine. Press the top palm down onto the bottom palm. You could look up, look to the side, or look down. Release some tension in the neck as you breathe. Bring the thumbs back to the heart as you inhale. And go the other way, left elbow to the outside. Lift the belly. Squeeze the knees. Release the fingertips to the floor. Lift your sit bones as you exhale. Inhale, step back with your left toes into your lunge. Shift the weight through the pelvis so the front knee is over the ankle. Press the feet down into the earth. Lengthen the tailbone and float the belly off the thigh, just hovering over the thigh, thumbs to the heart. Roll the shoulders around and down. Lift the chest a little higher and you might feel to soften the back knee here so the pelvis isn't pulled out of alignment. Place one thumb on top of the other and reach your arms forward. You can start to lift them, but only so much that the shoulders aren't up by the ears here. So maybe they're a little bit further forward. Keep breathing. Lower your back knee softly to the floor. Maybe you're going to lift your palms a little higher. Slide the heart up the sternum. And then release the fingertips to the floor. Lift your tailbone, lift your hips. Walk your hands back as you come into this hamstring stretch. Lifting the right toes, keep a bend in the knee. Hands could come a little bit wider, so the elbows are moving out to the sides. Pull the heel back towards you to activate the hamstring. And then maybe there's a little bend into the elbows as you bow. Without straightening or locking that front knee. And as you walk yourself back onto your foot, plant the palms, lift the back knee, let the right knee drop out to the right side, slide the ball of the foot back into a high plank, press the earth away. Lower your knees, chest and chin to the earth. Slide your chest through, baby cobra, and then release your forehead to the floor. Take a little internal rotation from the tops of each thigh as you just lift one leg slightly, lengthen the toes away, lift the inner thigh towards the sky, roll the little toe edge of the foot towards the floor. Take your fingertips off your mat and onto the floor, lifting the elbows. And then your right arm is going to reach out on the diagonal a little bit. Head is slightly off the floor, right arm is straight, and then you're going to roll your right shoulder head forward as if it were to come to the floor and look up towards the left elbow. Keeping that left pelvic bone rotated down. Roll the shoulder head back. Slide your right fingertips back in line with the shoulder. Left arm reaches out on the diagonal. And roll the left shoulder head forward. It may come to the floor, may not. Look up towards the right elbow, right hip releases down. Take the shoulder back, take the thumbs underneath the shoulder heads, push into the hands, tuck your toes, and float into your downward facing dog. Softening the elbows, sweeping armpits forward. Let's sink the left heel, float the right leg up behind you. Foot is flexed. Look into the space between your hands, bend the knee through. Step the foot in between the hands, come onto the tips of the fingers, soften the back knee, glide the back foot forward and set the feet hip distance apart. Snuggle the feet down here. Let the head go. Take an inhale and come all the way up to standing. Exhale, wiggle the feet together. Drop your thumbs down towards your heart. Grow tall. Sit down into Utkatasana once again. Squeeze the knees together. Pick up your left toes. Heel to sit bone. And then place the foot back down. Pick up your right toes. Squeeze the knees together. Place the foot down. And then reach the fingertips to the earth. Lift your sit bones towards the sky and fold. Step back with your right toes. Push down to the feet, lengthen the tailbone. Belly floats off, thumbs come underneath the heart to support you. All the inner thighs towards your midline. Press down to lift the chest a little bit more. Soften the back knee. Maybe cross one thumb over the other so you can hold the palms together in prayer. And reach your arms forward. They may come a little bit high, but not so much that the shoulders are hunched up around the ears. Soften the back knee to the floor. Lift your heart up and over. And then float the fingertips to the floor. Lift your tailbone. Lifting the front toes. And I'll take my hands wide. So they're almost like stabilizers on a bike, on a kiddie's bike here. Bending the elbows, bowing, and pulling the heel back towards the sit bones. So you're activating the hamstring. And as you walk yourself back onto the foot, plant the palms, lift the back knee. Let the left knee drop behind the upper arm. So we can keep the hips on a level as you slide the foot back into high plank. Lower knees, chest and chin as you exhale. Inhale, glide through, lengthen your toes. Bring your forehead to the floor. And take the fingertips onto the floor outside of your mat again, lifting the elbows. Bury your pubic bone. Shrug the right shoulder blade down the back. Do the same with the left. And then draw the tips of your shoulder blades towards your spine as you lengthen forward. Come into a little cobra. Couple of breaths. Just pinching or compressing in the lower back too much. Just make your way down a little bit or all the way. And release to the earth. Take your hands underneath your shoulders. Push back up onto hands and knees. Let's do a little cat stretch here. And with a rounded spine, start to hinge back a little bit. You might not go that far before the hands need to move, so just keep them super glued to the floor. Lifting the navel, rounding. And coming back up here. Tuck your toes and float yourself up and back into downward facing dog. As you sink your right heel, float your left leg up behind you. Look forward into the space between your hands, step the foot forward. Glide your back foot forward to fold. Big toe joints to touch, heels slightly apart. And come all the way up to standing as you inhale. Exhale, draw your thumbs down to your heart, sit down into Utkatasana. Take the right elbow to the outside of the thigh. As you inhale, if you wish, you could open up the arms here. Exhale, bring the palms back together. Thumbs to the heart, go the other way. Left elbow across. Exhale, inhale, maybe the arms open. Palms back together, thumbs to the heart, fingertips to the floor. Lift your sit bones as you fold. Inhale, step back with your left toes. And place the back heel in and down so it's grounded. Pull your right hip back in space. It's a warrior one stance here with the legs. Push into the feet, and again, just hover the belly, thumbs underneath the heart. So you're laying over your thigh here. Lift the chest a little bit, not all the way upright, because I want to keep some breath and openness in the lower back. Maybe cross the thumbs and reach the palms forward. Okay, so the belly stays lifted. And then releasing the fingertips to the floor. Maybe a little hamstring stretch here as you press into the big toe joint. Begin to straighten the leg. Re-bending your right knee. Take the right elbow onto the top or to the inside of the knee as you open up the chest, thumbs to prayer. So it's a variation of Parsvakonasana here. And as you push into the front foot, lift your shoulders above your hips. Keep your right pelvic bone lifted. Press the palms together as you inhale. And as you exhale, open the arms into warrior two. Breathing easily. Allow the breath to support and flood the pose. As you straighten up the knee, take the palms upwards by the ears. And then swivel the feet around to the other side in your warrior two. Left knee bends. Take your back arm up and over. Take the hands either side of the left foot. So you might be facing the back of your mat now. Swivel up the back heel and slide the left foot back. High plank. Chaturanga up dog or knees, chest and chin. Your choice of vinyasa. Lift the navel. Tuck your toes. Downward facing dog. Sinking your left heel, float your right leg up behind you, foot is flexed. Open the hip towards the sky, opening up the belly. So the little toe edge of the foot is lining up with the ceiling. Roll your right shoulder blade down. And then pulse the leg up, 1, 2, 3, before lifting your left heel to roll the right hip square. Step the foot forward in between the hands, come onto the tips of the fingers. Glide your back foot forward to fold. Come all the way up to standing as you inhale. Wiggle the feet together. Draw your thumbs down your midline towards your heart. Take an inhale here. As you exhale, sit back into Utkatasana. Deepen the creases. Allow the groins to press back. Release the fingertips to the floor and fold. Step back with your right toes. Take the back heel in and down. Push into the front foot. Float the belly off the thigh. Thumbs come underneath the heart. Put the shoulder blades down. Lift a little higher. Imagining that your hips are broadening. There's a spaciousness just above the buttocks onto the sacrum. Maybe cross the thumbs so you could reach the arms forward. Please separate the hands if this feels too much, too tense for your shoulders. And then release the fingertips to the floor. Take a little hamstring stretch here without forcing to straightening the leg. Rebend the knee. Take your left elbow either inside or on top of the thigh as you curl your left sit bone underneath you. Heart moves towards the tips of the fingers. Hands in prayer. Couple of breaths. You're pressing into the foot, lifting yourself into a warrior two. Lift your left hip bone, open the arms out to the sides. As you rise up, turn the toes in, reach the arms up by your ears, spin the feet towards the right as you drop down into your warrior two. Back arm comes up and over, hands to the floor. Slide the right foot back into a high plank. Have the feet a good hip distance. As you swing the heels to the right, you come onto the inner edge of one foot, outer edge of the other. Maybe onto the tips of your left fingers. Swivel across, go over to the other side. So one foot lies in front of the other. Come onto your right fingertips. Come back to the center. Lower your knees, chest and chin, or chaturanga up dog if that's your vinyasa today, your little interludes. Breathe through this. Lift the navel, take it back into your downward facing dog. Sink your right heel, float your left leg up behind you. Open up the hip, open up the belly. Roll the left shoulder blade down so the shoulder girdle is square. Pulse the leg up, 1, 2, 3. Before lifting your right heel, rolling the left pelvic bone forward. Step the foot in between the hands onto the tips of the fingers and glide your back foot forward to fold. Come all the way up to standing as you inhale. And as you exhale, draw your thumbs down your midline, let your spine grow taller. Take an inhale, and then we're going to fold here, softening the knees, fingertips to the earth. Step back with your left toes, back heel in and down once again. Maybe this time, as you come into your Parsvakonasana, the right elbow floats away from the body. So a little bit free floating here. Thumbs to the sternum. Press the knee towards the little two toes, last two toes. Arms could open up in space here. Again, maybe just slightly away from the body. Bring the hands back into prayer. Lift the shoulders above the hips. Straighten up the leg. Turning your toes forward. Adjust the width of your feet if you need to. Spin the heels in. Toes turn out a little bit. Drop down into Vatayasana or horse stance. Now, even though the back is flat, you might be angling it forward a little bit here, broadening the sit bones. Take the hands onto the mid-thighs. Maybe slide the hands down the shins or onto ankles. And then push away from the right leg, bending the left knee, a little side bend. Come back through to the center, move over to the other side. And again, coming through. Coming through. To the other side, and then spin yourself back around towards your right foot. Step back into a high plank. Take the feet a good width, swing the heels to the right, come onto the left fingertips, and then maybe by lifting that elbow, the arm could float up. So Savastasana, but with one foot in front of the other. And then pull that hand back down to the floor, roll yourself back. We'll just do one side this time, lower knees, chest and chin. Chaturanga, up dog, cobra. Lift your navel, tuck your toes, downward facing dog. Couple of breaths here. Just feeling into how this pose feels now, as opposed to the first down dog. you did about 40 minutes ago. Maybe it feels a little bit more equally weighted, a little bit lighter perhaps. Don't take my word for it. You may be experiencing something entirely different, and that is equally fine. Sink your left heel, float your right leg up behind you, flexing the foot, open up the hip. So I'm going to bend the knee, curl the heel towards the opposite sit bone, reverse pigeon. If you're very flexy and you tend to dump in the lower back, then lift the lower ribs slightly. Sink your left heel. And then roll your knee towards your navel. Step the foot in between the hands. Come onto the tips of the fingers. Glide your back foot forward to fold. And come all the way up to standing as you inhale. Exhale, thumbs to the heart. Start to come forward once again. Second side as you release down. Step back with your right toes. Bring the back heel in and down. Push away from the front foot. So activate the hamstring and the glutes. So that's your support. And as you lift up, you don't want to be using your back. You're using your legs. So hands into prayer. Maybe let the left elbow float. Let the left side of the body lay over the thigh. Change your head where it's comfortable. So you could be looking up to the side or looking down. Maybe the arms open on a diagonal, floating away from one another. Again, just free floating in front of the body. Hands back into prayer. Push into that front leg. Warrior two. Lifting up, turning the toes in. And then both heels a little bit, so the toes are at about 10 degrees. Bend the knees, dropping down into Vatayasana, pressing the palms together. You might angle the body forward a little bit to keep some spaciousness in the lower back. So now we're going to take the fingertips to the floor, press the knees away for a moment, and then spin the heels out so the feet are parallel, keeping the chest lifted. Take the right fingertips forward so that when you extend the spine, the wrist is underneath the shoulder. Make a little tripod between these fingers and your two sets of toes here. And float your left arm out and up. Thread the needle as we did earlier. So the palm faces up and you're reaching the back of the hand just in front of those right big toes. Stay here, looking underneath the right upper arm. Or creep your right fingertips forward as they creep over towards your left toes and look underneath the armpit. Couple of breaths. Feel the length of the spine. Maybe some tension in the back of the neck. And then sliding the hands back to the center. So we can go the other way. Left fingertips to the center. Float your right arm out and up. You might look up towards the thumb. Then thread the needle as the palm faces upwards. You can follow the fingers with your gaze as you reach beyond your left big toe. Left hand can just soften, support you here, or you can creep the fingertips over towards the right toes. Gaze underneath the armpit as you breathe. And making your way back to the center here and walking over towards the left foot into a lunge. Glide your left foot back into a high plank. Spin the heels to the left. Come onto the right fingertips and lead with your elbow as this arm floats up. And take the fingertips back to the earth. Spin yourself around. We'll take a moment of pause. Lower the knees. Big toes to touch as you come and sit down into a child's pose. Couple of breaths here. Softening the elbows, spreading the shoulders. And coming back up onto hands and knees. Tuck your toes. Float your hips up and back into a downward facing dog. Float the left leg up behind you. Open up the hip. Curl the heel towards the opposite sit bone. Gather the lower ribs if you know you're dumping into the lower back. Roll the left shoulder blade down towards the earth. And then bend the knee through. Step the foot in between the hands and glide your back foot forward to fold. Come all the way up to standing as you inhale, and as you exhale, thumbs draw down your midline towards your heart. Take an inhale here. Exhale, release the arms down. Big wide breath. Then fly forward, touch the earth. Step back with your left toes into your lunge. Back heel comes in and down. Push into the front foot and float the hands underneath the chest. Twist, take the left elbow onto the top of your right thigh or to the outside as you pull your right hip back in space. You've got the stability of your back heel down here. Couple of breaths. And then releasing the fingertips to the floor. Back foot stays in the same orientation, but you're going to bring it forward about a foot and a half. If you need to wiggle the right foot slightly out towards the right so you've got some width between the feet, you can have the fingertips on the floor. You might need to take your hands onto your shins. Keep the chest lifted or allow the forehead to travel towards the shin. There's a little dance here between the weight in the front and the back foot. Now bend the front knee. Step your left foot back into a long lunge. Lower your back knee down. Hamstring stretch as you lift the front toes. Bow towards the shin. Walk yourself back onto your right foot. Pivot on the back knee so the shin crosses the mat. And take your hands inside so you're turning your shoulders towards the long edge of the mat. And slide that right leg away so the inner arch comes more or less in line with the knee. Spine is extended. Let's float the right arm out and up. You could look up. You could open it a little bit more as you spin your heart. Look down if there's tension in the neck. And then thread the needle again as this arm floats through. Maybe it comes to the floor. Start to make your way down here. You may not go that far. Keep the whole of your right foot grounded. Strong stretch through the inner seam of the leg. This is the liver meridian in Chinese medicine. And as we move into the spring, it's a detox for the liver after the months of stagnancy, the winter months. Press into the palm to come up. Slide this right shin to the floor. Come even between your four columns here. Lift and round your spine into your cat. Press the earth away. Come into neutral. Walk yourself forward so that when you tuck your toes there on your mat, walk your hands back as you come into a little crouching position. My heels are slightly off, but the feet are parallel. Let the head release. And then as you drop your knees down, so more or less in line with the hips, is it possible for you to take just a little balance here, hands to the heart? Maybe, maybe not. Take the fingertips to the floor outside of your left thigh, so towards the back edge of your mat there, and just hop yourself around. Lift your sit bones as you come into a standing forward fold. Take a hold of your elbows and let yourself hang. Let the shoulders hang around the ears. Slowly coming all the way up to standing, using your legs as you come up here. And walking towards the front edge of your mat, thumbs to the heart. Let's make our way down, fingers to the earth. Step back with your right toes. Bring your back heel in and down. Push into the front foot, hands to the heart in prayer as you come up about 2/3 of the way. Twist and take the right elbow onto the top or to the outside of your thigh. Pull your front hip back in space. Lengthen the heart towards the tips of your fingers and anchor to the outer foot. Just a couple more breaths here. Enjoy the wobbling. Embrace any little wobbling here through the supporting muscles of the ankle and the shin pads. Release the fingertips to the floor and step your back foot about 1.5 feet forward as you ground the heel. Let yourself fold forehead to shin. You need to be a bit higher. Hands one on top of the other on the shin. And then re-bending your front knee. So you can step long back with your right toes, lower the knee. Move into a hamstring stretch. And then back onto your foot. As you pivot on the right knee, walk the hands inside and square your shoulders towards the long edge of the mat. Stretch your left leg away, toes are point forward. Knee and inner arch more or less in line. Lift out of the shoulders as you float your left arm up. You might open the chest a little bit more. You want to open through the pectoral muscle and the shoulder is comfortable enough. And thread the needle with this left arm as the palm faces up. Maybe settling part of the upper arm, elbow, maybe even the side of the face. Stimulating this liver, urinary, bladder meridian through the inner seam of your leg. Making your way up out of this. Slide the left shin to the floor. Lift and round your spine into your cat. Press the earth away. Come into neutral. Walk the knees forward so that when you tuck your toes, they're on your mat. Walk yourself back here. Flip up the knees. Let yourself come into just this nice, easy, crouching position. Palms can be flat to give you some support. Let the head go. So let any tension around the base of your skull into the brainstem release. And take your hands over towards the right. Hop yourself forward. And just stretch back into your last down dog. Give yourself a big physical stretch here. Big physical yawn through the body. Any little movement is just to wiggle out any little bits of tension. And then release your knees to the floor, flatten your feet. Come back into a child's pose of your choice. Arms could be down by the sides, palms facing up, relaxing the shoulders, out in front of you, or supporting the head. Your arms, wherever they are, down by your sides with the palms facing up. Lead with the chest as you come to sit on the heels. Flip over the tips of the fingers so your hands can come to the floor. Lengthen your tailbone forward. Release the buttocks into the arches of the feet. Just a little stretch for the quads here. Keep the chin down. Keep the shins pressing to the earth. And then coming up out of this, bring the knees together, sink your hips to one side, stretch your legs out in front of you. And if you're towards the back of your mat here, we're going to come forward just with a few little sit bone walks, which will just help to recalibrate your pelvis here. So just walking one sit bone and then the other forward, doesn't matter where you place it on, somewhere neutral, keeping the legs straight. Lovely. And then release yourself down onto the earth. Just roll yourself down here. Or use your hands if that's uncomfortable. And draw your right knee towards your chest. Open the right arm out to the side. Left hand comes to the outside of your knee. It's going to roll into a little twist, quite shallow as you exhale. Knee comes across. Inhale, roll onto your back again. 2 more times. Exhaling, knee comes across a little bit. Inhale, take it back. Exhale, roll the knee across. Maybe turn your gaze towards the right thumb. Only go as far as is comfortable. That might be placing the foot on the floor. That might just be hovering, keeping the right shoulder blade down, your choice. Take the knee back and out to your right shoulder as the hand comes over the knee. It's a little external rotation here. And then take the knee to point towards the right cheek. Flex the feet, lift the head off the floor, squeeze in a little bit. Release the shoulders and head down. Foot to the floor and stretch your right leg forward. Let the feet relax and just take a moment to notice if there's any difference between the right and left sides, particularly the legs. One may feel a little longer than the other. If that's not your experience, that's also perfectly fine. Let's draw the left knee towards the chest. Hug it in. Take the left arm out to the side, right hand to the outside. Rock the knee across, doesn't have to be far as you exhale. Inhale onto the back. And again, exhaling. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Take the knee out towards the shoulder. It's a little external rotation here. Take the knee and point it back to the cheek. Lift your head and shoulders off the floor. Squeeze in. Place the head and shoulders down. Release the foot to the floor. And extend your leg out. If there's anything else you feel you need to be more comfortable in Shavasana, a pillow or a bolster underneath your knees can help to soften the lower back, or you can just keep the knees bent. Spread and soften in the shoulder joints. Palms turning towards the sky. Soften the hands. Soften again. Follow the breath down. Relaxing the face, jaw, throat, shoulders. Giving yourself these last few minutes to legitimately rest and do nothing, no intention, no focus. Just beginning to settle and you feel your body wants to go just that little bit deeper. Stay. You know you need to finish on time, and then please just begin your return slowly, gradually back to your body and your breath. There's no hurry here as you make some small movements. Just stretch or wiggle out your body a little bit. Slide the feet back to the floor if your legs are extended, so you can soften the lower back to the earth. Roll yourself over to the right side, still with your eyes closed. Use your left hand onto the floor to gently spiral your way back to a comfortable seat. Bring your hands to your heart in prayer. Hands in Anjali Mudra. This is seal of honoring the divine that resides within yourself and all your fellow beings. And with an open heart and a quiet mind, gently open your eyes. Namaste. Thank you, everybody. Have a peaceful day. Hope to see